Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got some audio there. So what's it looking like on your A-team system? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've probably got a wee bit more than that, but yeah, 1, 2, 3. That's you probably may have taken that gain down too far on the mixer stage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just doing level checks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crackling. Is it? Overloading. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's background noise. Check. on, so I don't have to touch it.
Check, check. Hello, everybody. Maybe a little louder for my quiet voice. Please, a little bit louder for my quiet voice. Thank you. If you'd like to come and take your seats for tonight's presentation, that would be wonderful. I saw chocolate at the front. It's disappeared. That didn't last long, did it? Chocolate for tonight. It's pretty damn good. Welcome, everyone. I hope you got some bargains early on. We've had some amazing bargains at these do's where we bring our things in to swap, give for free, or sell. I've bought a TV off one of our members, and it's still going strong at home. We use it all the time. Every time I look at it, I remember the evening. I've got that from here. I just can't get that out of my head. That's quite weird. So how is everybody? Are you good? Excited about this evening? Good to be back. Welcome back, intrepid travellers. And also this evening we have a couple of people, Susie and Toby. Welcome. I'll say it quietly so you're not embarrassed. Is that all right? Sorry? Toby is Toby's youngest friend in the class tonight. Any other people who haven't been before who are new and visiting? Oh, welcome. That's nice to see you. And welcome at the back. I don't know everybody's names. So don't need to shout them out. Photographers are notoriously shy and hide behind the cameras, right? Yeah. So we don't want to go displaying our names and all that. My name's Heidi. I'm taking you. I'm emceeing for tonight. A few notices, and then I'm going to hand you over to the speaker tonight, who is Ian. Ian Moore's our president. So a couple of things that are coming up that might be of interest to the club is the Nelson Triptych competition. Now, this is run by the Nelson. And triptych is 3, so it's 3 pictures together. And if you go on their website, they have got little clues as to what looks really great together, how to produce these triptychs. They've even got the software that you can use to help you if you are unfamiliar with that kind of context. Also, it's quite cool to get 3 images, like small ones, and just play around with them, even cut them up and do anything exciting with them. So you can be quite creative in the way you approach that triptych. But do go on and see, because there's some inspiration. Sometimes that inspiration can throw you off key and go, I can never get that. But always remember, you know, you might be at the bottom of the rung, but if you keep climbing the steps, you will get there. So it's good to have that practice behind you. So that's just one thing. They've got different genres. They've got a meeting as one of their genres, work and monochrome. So if anything fits into those categories, there's another prize for those as well. Okay. Next week, I'll talk about that later. PI6 is due in tonight. If you haven't got your PI, it's a projected image, and it is part of the competitions that we do here. We're quite a competition-focused club where we put pictures in and we get critique back. And that's informative for us and usually very useful, and seeing other people's images and how that particular judge will give their critique for it. So there is a PI6 due in tonight, so 12 o'clock, you have till midnight. It's okay, Alistair, till midnight. We also have had the results of the Laurie Thomas Landscape Salon, so congratulations to everybody who submitted an image. That's the first thing, and also those that did get an acceptance or got a gold or a medal. We will be presenting a show here on the 5th of July, is it? Yep, on the 5th of July, so do come along to that. And it is open to all of the New Zealand So it's New Zealand landscape. So that would be just wonderful to see all those pictures. It's a very special evening. We host it and we do food, is that correct? So it's a very nice evening. Come and have a few nibbles with us as well. MDC, which is our monthly digital challenges, shapes this month. So you've got until the 30 days of June, right? Not 31? 30, yeah. I wrote that wrong. 30th of June. You've got till 30th of June to get your shapes. MDC, yes. Okay, so Diane's just reminding us that the North Shore is open for a couple of weeks. So you can go on the website and put your pictures in for that. Another competition that's external from our competition here. The audio-visual hand-in is on the 28th of June also, which is where you can put all your prints into an audio-visual display. No more than 5 minutes, and I've got 9 minutes on mine, so I've got to go home and do some homework. I should have read the instructions, right? Okay, without further ado, and if there's nothing else outstanding, I'll hand you over to Ian Walls, who was our judge and organised and critiqued and got this whole thing going, and I won't talk any more about it. It's up on the wall. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Don't need to got this. Right then, I did have some glasses here, so I had a fighting chance of reading my own notes. The Set Challenge. For a start, hands up those of you who have entered tonight, just to get that's a good bunch. We had a really good, good set of people entering the Set Challenge this year. So first of all, before we have a look at the images, let's recap and talk about what we're trying to achieve here. So the purpose of the Set Challenge is to get people starting to work with multiple images. A competition structure is very single image orientated, so you put in a picture here, there and everywhere, and then when we move on to a sort of next level up things, we start talking about multiple images and things like the triptych that Heidi was talking about. So here's an opportunity to have a play with multiple images in a kind of friendly sort of a competition. It's not really a competition per se. As I say, preparation for PSNZ Honours. The honours submissions for this year are due in at the end of July, so there's another month and a bit to go, and I'm really hoping that there's a bunch of people here who, particularly those who've submitted to the Set Challenge, will go on and make submissions for PSNZ Honours, because the work is certainly good enough. It's not a competition, it's a challenge, so it's something a little bit different, and it's like everybody wins, and John's got the chocolate, so we'll be dishing out chocolate as we go through there. He's guarding the chocolate. And as I say, a creative presentation. So here is the options that we had for this year's challenge. And I was asking people to either do a challenge that I called Diversity, which was a 4-image set. So that had all the things that I talked about, or will talk about putting a set together. And it could be a projected image, or it could be a set of 4 prints. Predominantly projected images came in. The other component of it is make it happen. This is really a good opportunity for people to just do anything that's a bit arty. So making books, calendars, and we've got a few really cool things to look at tonight of what people have made. So, blank slide that shouldn't be there. Diversity is the first thing I'm going to talk about, and we'll move through those set and talk about. We had 18 entries, which is really good. In the past, probably half that sometimes in these things. So this is, to me, this is a really good. I get a good sense that people are keen to start having a go with sets, and so consequently we'll be making some PSNZ applications, honours applications. That's what I'm hoping. So let's go and revisit that before we talk about any more. Diversity within a PSNZ honours capacity. Photographic proficiency is often be best demonstrated with a diversity of approach. For example, by a variety of subject matter, a variety of lens choice and lens setting, and a variety of viewpoints and lighting conditions. particularly in the licenseship and the associateship stage of the honours, we're looking for kind of rounded photographers. We want people to demonstrate a variety of abilities. So you've got to present a diverse subject. So hence, I've made this year's challenge a little bit orientated along that, but I've pushed it in a wee bit of a one direction. It is not the only direction you could go in if you were to make an honours submission. What I've done is I've asked people to make a 4-image set that considers either, like, I want the subject, the feeling of the picture to be about people, place, form or light. Another way that it could be a portrait, it could be a landscape image, it could be shape orientated, or it could be texture orientated. So, and there have been a range of responses to that. So that was the challenge in the diversity component. A 4-images set with 4 different feelings in the pictures. So I want you to be able to look at it and say, this one feels like it's about people, this one feels like it's about place. However, the key to all these things is that the set has to hang together or flow. I'm going to talk about that a lot as we go through the rest of the set. So I kind of talk about it as cohesive diversity. So we're doing things all over the place, but there is something so cohesive and ties together in the set. As I said, there are 18 participants in this component of it. They've got 4 images each. So if I talk about every image for 2 minutes, we're going to be here at midnight. So I'm not intending to talk about them at extreme length, but I'm going to talk about the sets as they sit together as we go. One of the really interesting things and the best ways to get a sense of how things hang together is to see how other people do it. And so we've got 18 different approaches here and 18 different ways of doing it. So if you do nothing other than just sit and look and go, I see, that felt more cohesive to me than that. Or I would do it this way perhaps if I was applying, that might apply to my images and my set in this way. That's going to be beneficial from tonight. If you do nothing, you don't listen to anything I say, or you think everything I say is rubbish, which is quite likely, but just look at the pictures and see how they hang together. There are many options here, so learn by how others have done it and refine your own. Ask yourself when you see a set, how does it sit together and how does it flow? And that's what I'm going to ask when I look at the sets. What I'm going to do is going to go through them, show you all the pictures, go 1, 2, 3, 4, just by saying nothing, and then go back to the first one and then just talk about how they hang together or flow. And there's a difference between hanging together and flowing, and that relates to the difference between a projected image set in the honours context, for example, and a print set. The difference between a print set is you see it all in one go, so that one of the keys to a successful print set is that the combination image is stronger than the sum of the individual parts. And if you bear that in mind when you're thinking about putting a set together, that works for prints. And when it comes to projected image, it needs a progression or a flow throughout the set. So there's a lesser number of images to flow through when there's only 4, but the principle then that applies. So those are the sort of things, and that's how it's going to work. So I'm going to ask, how does it sit together and flow? How have the people who've submitted this set followed the brief? And how would this work if it was an honours set? So there's my rambling to start off with. Let's get on with it. And the first picture is coming up now. So this is Anne Yuan's set. So kind of this is shape and form, it's texture, people, place. So there's no requirement and people put them in different orders, just the way things flow. Now, most of you, is Anne here? No, Anne's not here, but she's probably watching on the computer. you will know that Anne, when it comes to putting in sets, she tends to ask lots of people for their opinions about how things, and she most definitely asked me about this. What should I put in? How should I do it? And I kind of talked about diversity and flow and showed it to her, and then away she went. But when she put it in, she knocked it out of the park by simply putting them all to black and white. The cohesiveness in this set works because they're all monochrome and about the same level of tonality. So that's what's worked really well. We've got 4 completely different images that do hold together because of colour, and in this case, lack of colour. So that's something that is worth thinking about. And when it comes to flow, if you had a bigger set, you can go through a chunk of 4 or 5 images that were all monochrome, and if you wanted to lead into it, you might have colourful, less colourful, monochrome as your flow as you went through the whole set of 10. But Anne's held this set of 4 together really well by using monochrome, and I'd be delighted to give her a chocolate, so she's not here, she doesn't get a chocolate. So John's one for John. The next one, Thyra Cosell. Just let me do the thing again, straight through them. So people, shapes, maybe that's shapes, texture and light on that one, either or, and place. And here's a really good example. Thyra's just not black and white had made them together, she's made blue and pink. Kind of blue and pink is what's held this together. And the pinks transition over time. There is a flow of feeling as you go through this set, but that's another really good example of using colour consistency to make the set flow. And I think it clearly goes from place. It's pretty hard to tell whether this one's intended to be circles and shapes, or that's one's shapes, the other one's probably texture, and definitely people with an intriguing, slightly blue-eyed and pink-dressed lady that kind of works really well. So well done, Thyra. Is she here? She obviously doesn't want chocolate either. Okay, we'll keep moving. Nerily Keating. Nerily takes us through a wander in a place. This feels to me like Arrowtown, down the end of Arrowtown, when you go down past the shops and onto that area where the Chinese kind of minor area is. But anyway, it's there when the autumn feeling is about it. The leaves are yellow, and we get a sense of people in a place, really. The gold miner's abode. Colour in the trees. And then more bright colour. You'll notice we start with a sort of an orangey green, and we've got some people. We still keep those orangey greens things here, and then there is a sense of place with this building. It's about the building. We do get a sense of where we are, if we can tell from that. And then we've got this shape with a strong oblique angle that comes across from that top right corner, which divides the frame into 2, to the blaze of colour on the Arrowtown Hills, to the little bit of snow on the Remarkables in behind. So that's kind of about shape and form. And the last one is a bold sort of textural image that's strongly about colour. And we do have this sense of sort of red and gold that runs through the whole set. So that's the way Nerily's done it. Nerily here. There she is. I thought I saw you before. Well done. Yeah, she's in the front corner. On the far corner. So you have to have 2 since the other 2 didn't turn up, so otherwise I'll have to eat them when I get home. Okay, next one, Kelly Haybiddles. This is really cool and a bit different. People. Place. I really enjoyed how this image tells a story about place without actually showing us the place at all. That's kind of form, a solid structure in the middle of the whole thing, and then the final image just brings it all together and blows us right out of the water. Really cool. it's in Hamner, and it's in the, what do they call it, the soldiers' area, hospital, whatever. So Kelly's obviously had a really great time in there. And what she has done, if you looked at the diversity aspects of this sort of thing, yes, and does it follow the theme? Yes, definitely people. Yes, definitely place. Sort of shape and sort of form. But in every single one of those has a completely different feel about them and demonstrates a completely different type of technique. We start with this high key technique, which works really well, where the lady's face is the draw card to the whole thing, but the rest of it's high key and gone. So that's a really strong demonstration of a particular technique. As I said, this one's place in an interesting, unusual way, as a sort of a graphical form, but we do get the sense of place, particularly if you know where it is. You look at it and go, oh, immediately you know where it is, and the rest of the set gives it that context. This tells a story about the place, different photographic technique again. So we've got 3 images and 3 completely different techniques being demonstrated, and then if you use that in the perspective of an honours board looking at it, they'll be looking at each of these images and saying they're each a high quality image of a completely different form, and they're creating a diverse set. And then this one at the end kind of brings it all together really well, and once again a different technique, sort of a multiple exposure. I'm not sure whether it's in camera or put together afterwards, it doesn't really matter. The point of it is that it's a multiple exposure, something interesting, and something ties the whole thing together. So Kelly's definitely followed the brief, and if these images were put in front of the honours board, they would be definitely saying yes, that is a diverse set. So well done. Chocolate for Kelly, please. Karen McConchie took us to Pink Lake Hut Lagoon in Western Australia, and what a really cool place it is. I'm just going to step through the pictures and just see if you can get a sense of the place. Let's go back through them. If we go back to the brief, the people, place, form and da-da-da, there's no people. So she didn't follow the brief, but actually who cares, because we do have an interesting range of diverse techniques that are displayed here. This one is definitely a place feeling. I kind of get lines coming in here. And then again, a place kind of a thing, but it's much more concise. It's a different technique, it's a different lens, it's a different aspect that's been made here. So it is a diverse consideration and way of doing things. Again, a wide angle, probably a similar sort of a thing in place, but it's another perspective on the whole area. I get this kind of sense of vastness with this one, and then we get right in close with a little bit of a crystalline thing. So there is a colour that follows through it, sort of blue and pink. Starts with blue, goes pink, blue and pink, and then pink at the end. So there's a consistency of colour that works there. So yeah, once again, diversity has happened. Whether she strictly followed the brief is another question, but that doesn't matter because it's a challenge and who cares? We're just here to have fun. So well done, Karen. Is she here tonight? Oh, here she is, over here with the chocolate, please.
I see what I should have done.
No, that's fine. Like I said, the whole point of this is not necessarily to get the best of anything, it's just to have a crack at it, so it's really well done. John McCall shows us some evening light, an old water supply building, some bagpipers, and a wool shed. Now, they all get the sense of the same sort of place. So this one, I think, for me, what I get out of this is the texture in the wall in the front. So I think this image was texture driven, and John sort of hunting the challenge. That's clearly people who, presumably the a Scottish influence in the part of the world that we're talking about here. So, and that ties through. And I suspect that this has been made at the local, AMP show or equivalent, whatever. Definitely get a sense of place here with this old building that's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but must have been a well or a pump shed or something at one point. And then we get this kind of light and shape and form and texture with the dramatic skies. Oops, who's that? So has he followed the brief? Has he produced a range of different sets? I think definitely he has. Does it hold together? We go blue and yellows. There's the blue sky, which is holding the whole thing together. That's definitely a people image. And as I said, this one's the texture image, and I think it might have worked better within that set if it had been closer in or emphasised the texture of the wall better. But nonetheless, good, well-handled set. Is John here tonight, Diana? Do you want to take a chocolate for him? JK. Oops, I think I went one first. Yes, I thought I went one too far. I thought it started with people. We've got this bright red colour theme that relates to the place JK's been and flows through the whole set and is what it gives its continuity and flow, really, is achieved by that. So here we go, the red, and this is I get the sense of people here, but by the fact that this lady's facing away from us and we don't see her face, because there's a degree of anonymity in that, we're able to look past her. If she was facing towards us, it would be really strongly about her, and the rest of the background and the place she's in would be less emphasised. So we're able to get a sense that it's about her in this place. That works. And then we get this smaller amount of the red, but it's still there. Looks like it's in Kobe. More of the architecture, converging lines. There's people at the far end, but it's all about the structure. And again, the red kind of holds it together. And then we finish off with a little final detail, which is about form and, it's a little part of the building which kind of holds the thing together, and it is about shape and form. So the brief has been handled really well, and the whole thing sits together, primarily pulled through by that bright red, which is such a dominant colour that if it's going to be in one of the images, it pretty much works much better if it's in all of them, which is what JK's done here. So, well done, JK. Chocolate for JK, please. John Hawkins. Now, this is an interesting thing. I hadn't talked about aspect ratio and the form of the picture. That's another way of holding things together, is having a whole series of 4 or 6 square images that there's a consistency there. When you look at this, you think it's unlikely that John's going to give us 4 images with this wide aspect ratio, and in fact he doesn't, but he has started with a strong image that gives us a really, really strong sense of place, and our eyes pulled over to the sort of god beams out over the ocean there, and there's enough detail in the windswept grasses to pull us along that way, and this aspect ratio actually works for the image, and it works with sitting in this place within the set. It's like an introductory. If you went from a square or even a 3x2 crop to something like this and then back out of again, it would become a hard transition. This way there's still a transition, but we only do it once, so that's a good place to put that image. So it goes from place to people, an old man's best friend, to form with the old bank. There's converging verticals pulls us really up there, and it's a strong graphical kind of image. And it finishes with the path, which is a gnarly old tree and footpath, and it's a really textural image, and kind of it really works in terms of a textural form. If we look at the whole set of images, that one starts off. This is the one for me that sits less well with the other ones. It is colour, but it's reasonably subdued. This is quite strongly about colour, but it works in terms of a flow. We've gone from the wide aspect ratio to a square, which just sort of sets us going in the right direction. And these two at the end sit together well because there is an element of colour in there, but it's predominantly monochrome, and it's a really strong form, and the final image is strongly about texture and sort of a little abstract as we come through there. But they're all, in this case, they're all quite different images, and they do progress from one to the other, but they don't have a theme that goes through them like some of the other ones you've set. But anyway, so that's John's set. Well done, John. Take yourself a chocolate. John, Ben's set. They're all strong colour, they all just grab you type images. So we start with standing tall, floating free, protection, and a South Pacific atoll. Let's go back. I really think these sit together really well and flow well because they all have this, it's an energy thing for me in this set. Each of them has the same amount of oomph as they kind of go through. They're quite different, but they all have the same sort of energy feeling in them. This is a strong, clearly the picture is about that one little fungi thing that's amazing how it can actually stand up, but it's sitting in a vibrant environment. He's photographed and made the whole thing sort of really hum and sing. And they get to this little kid who's full of action and energy and the expression that we've got on the face. And a picture of kids with bubbles is always about energy. So to get the bubble there and to hold it in, it holds the energy as we come straight through it. So we then go from sort of two really highly energetic images to one that's less energetic, but it's still got, it's not about movement, but it's about fragility that holds together really well. And it calls it protection, and that's kind of seed head there. There's an element of fragility, but within that is strength and that structure. So for me, it's still about energy. And then we finish off with lots of energy in the sunshine, in the South Pacific atoll, standing out as a little bit of a different, and this is like the wide aspect ratio, just like John's, but that's at the other end of the set. Once again, if that had sat within the set, it would have found some difficulty, but sitting at the end of it, it worked really well. So I think that set worked really well. It actually followed the brief pretty well, in which we had the people, place, form and light that he's got here. And in terms of presentation within an honours set, if there was another 4 that were just like this sitting beneath them and then another 2 that were something different, they would have 10 images of diversity that sat together really well. So I think this has got a really strong potential to go forward as a PSNZ honours set. So well done, John. Chocolate for the man, please. Joe Curtis. Joe's taken us to a place. So this set is about happenings in a place. It starts in the Hawktons. So she's up in the hills, and that's where they are at the moment, so I suspect they're quite lucky. I hope it's snowing and cold and spectacular and everything down there for them. But there we go, sunset in the Hawktons with a fine line of sunset there, and an energy in the picture that kind of works, and it's definitely a sense of place. Then we get the musterer who pops up in lots of Joe's pictures for some reason, who kind of looks the part and is being done what he's told, and he's standing there being the perfect musterer. And so this one kind of sets the scene as well, and it looks like there's a bit of snow in the background, so it's appropriate to have the cold oilskin on and a few thermals underneath the whole thing, and he's ready to go and ride the bucking bronco by the look of it, but we'll hear the story about that later on, I have no doubt. So that was place and people. And then we get some shape and form. This really is about form. And it's cool how she's tied this into the original set. We had a sort of a sunset in the original place setting, but within this form image, there's still a reference to the sunset. And this is the outside of the building. I'm sure most of us have seen that building. I suspect it's the musterer's hut. They're not far away. And then you go inside and see the musterer's hut ready to go. So again, this one's, about sort of textures and lights and all that sort of stuff. So 4 completely different images, 4 different ways of telling a story about the same sort of place. So that's another way of achieving diversities, is talking about the same place or the same subject or the same type of thing, but telling the story from a different perspective, and Jo's done a really good job of that. And since she's away, I suspect that we'll just have to save her a chocolate or promise and not deliver. We'll see how we go. Jane Barnes has been waving lights around again. And it's a really cool set. So Jane's taken a single technique and pushed it in lots of directions. So we start with Guardian, which is about people. Early morning light, so it brings a place into it, but we've got this mysterious orb thing there as well. Light and texture. I've no idea how that works, but it's cool. And then we've got this form structure of a wavy looking tree or something. There's a strong sort of ghostly form in the middle of it. So here's a technique that's been taken to 4 different places, and she's followed the brief. She's actually made pictures of each of the things I asked you to do, or found them that fitted. I'm not sure, it doesn't really matter. But it's all one technique that's come together. If this was exhibited as part of an L set, it would satisfy the diversity thing, provided it carried on to go to somewhere else. It's totally appropriate to do something like Jane's done here, to take a particular technique and explore it from different ways, but then we're looking for people to flow on to some other sort of a technique to finish off the rest of the 10 images. And that's the challenge. We're doing 4 here. When it comes to putting in your submission for an L, you need 10. She's already nailed that already, so don't have to worry about that. But anyway, so well done, Jane. This was a cool set. I enjoyed watching it, and here comes John with the chocolate. Jan Bogue went to Littleton by the looks of this. So this is going to be, there's something different to look in this that we'll talk about a little bit later, and the way she's presented this. So here we have a picture of the marina, and there's a couple of sort of sensors I get here. You get the vertical aspect of all the masts, but there's also this oblique line that comes across from all the mooring piers. So there's any energy coming from left to right. Then we go for the next image, where there is energy coming from right to left. There's heaps of energy in that bright red sail, but the fact that there's a person here, he's clearly a sailor. You can tell he just looks the part, got the bright red sail in the background and the life vest and all the sailor sort of stuff. So he fits within the set. So that's energy coming from right to left. And then we have some vertical stacks of the dinghies. So interesting reflections that match up again, and there's kind of vertical energy there. And then we finish off with horizontal energy in this one. But Jan also presented this as a combined set, and as such he's presented it in a way that a print set would be put together. And here it is. So in this one, like I said, if you look at the top image, the top 2 images, they have, the one on the left has energy coming from the outside to the in, from that case left to right, and the other guy on the other side has got energy coming from right to left as they both come towards the middle. So if you're arranging that in a line, you could actually use those 2 on the outside lines of the images, whereas the bottom ones, there's vertical and there's horizontal, which could comfortably fit in the middle of a row of images. So that's kind of worth thinking about how to put those together. But there's something that is significant there, and it's worth looking at, is how powerful red is. And if you look at that image with the red sail, it's the one that pulls your eye and just grabs you. And even when it was shown through as a flow of image, that was something which was a strong, really strong image. It is a strong image, but I think it needs to work better within this set. It needs a matching pair. You know, if there was something else that had a matching energy level just as high to count against it, that would really work well. I enjoyed that Jan's put this together and thought about how it goes together, would go together as a print kind of set, as opposed to a flow type of energy that would be in a projected image set. And you know, it's really worth thinking about how the energy flows within the image in that sort of set. So that's a well done to Jan, who's hiding in the back somewhere. This set, Hesham's call it the dance of the fishing net. I'm just going to step through them. I think these are absolutely stunning. They don't follow the brief at all, but that's okay because they sit together really well, and they have a sort of simplicity and a grace about them that really works. They balance and they flow from one to the other, and as a set of 4 pictures, they sit together really, really well. So it's highly commended in that perspective. If we took this into an honours type of application, it would probably miss because it doesn't have the diversity of things that they're looking at. This is what I would describe as a mini F. The work that here is of the quality and the style and stuff of a fellowship, which is the top award within the honours, and that requires an individual examination of a really fine thing, which is exactly what Heaton's done here with an examination of the fish nets. If this kind of set to me feels that the sets of 4 works really well. You could probably put 6 or 8 in that would hold together within the same sort of viewpoint. But if you tried to get on to 18, which is what you're doing with a fellowship, that's when it would become difficult, and you'd need to expand that. How would you do that? You could expand that by taking a close-in study of something, or you could make the image flow from that degree of viewpoint from where you are to in closer. You could take the picture of bring some people into it. You could have a close-up picture of within the same tonality of one of the fishermen setting the things up, and you could have a close-up of just his hands and the buoys, and there's a whole bunch of things that you could do to develop that and keep the consistency of what's going on here. But the way that sort of thing is put together, it's the next level up when it comes to PSNZ Honours, if that's what you're thinking. Just because we're talking about PSNZ Honours, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to strive for it, because with any particular set of images. I think this set of images is absolutely gorgeous, and I'd love to see a series of 4 prints hanging on a wall or in the corner. That would be just gorgeous, and that's probably a good place for it where it is. But in terms of following the brief in this case and then submitting for honours, possibly not in this form, but that doesn't take it away from anything, because I thought these were absolutely wonderful and well and truly worth a chocolate. Diana. We start with lake fog and we get a sense of the place here. There's another place thing here. I really quite enjoyed this. It's sunrise at the airfield. Doesn't look like it's a sort of a day that anybody wants to go flying anywhere right at the minute. And then we have the tussock form, which is bold and right in the middle. There's some context of the mountains and the fence in the background, but it's predominantly about that tussock. and then we change direction and we get a picture of the person part of the whole thing right at the end of it. So let's go back and see how they flow. We're starting out with blue and a little bit of gold. We're stepping across, there's some blue, there's some gold, and we've added the pink there. We've got back to blue and gold, and we've got John's shirt is blue and gold, and we've added to green. So there's a flow within that set of colour. There is each of the images that they've fitted the brief. Diana's certainly found images that have fitted the brief, and they flowed together. And it's kind of colour that has held that flow together. I particularly enjoyed this one of John in the end, and I like the fact that he's sitting bang smack in the middle of the picture. So it's kind of clearly about him, but he relates to the other stuff, and those trees that, this is Barbara's trees in Hanmer. We've all been there with Barbara or seen Barbara's pictures over the years, and so Diana's gone to Barbara's place, which is a cool thing in itself. But it's about John, but the context is clearly there. So again, well done. I think that worked, and it most definitely followed the brief. So chocolate for Diana, please. Dennis has gone crazy in Littleton again, so I'm just going to flick through this, and I've got a few things to come back to. Starts with mystery, and then we have marina, and then we have some shadows, and reflection. So let's go back to the start. This one's a really cool way to start the set. It's something different. It's just got a shape and it's about shape and form, but there's an abstract nature to the whole thing with just these posts, and I'm pretty sure that it's the mooring posts in the side of that marina and a little bit of ICM to get that way. But if I hadn't seen other pictures of this place or seen other pictures in this set, I wouldn't have had a clue what they were, and I would have just enjoyed it for the simplicity and the shape that it's there. We then go to the other extreme with a literal version of the same kind of thing. My only suggestion here, Dennis, is that I would have moved the crop up a bit to make it a match to the picture before, and I got rid of the boats at the bottom and just made it a more literal form that would have sat in the same way as the one before. So that could have flowed nicely onto that, in that we've got vertical lines and blue at the top. So if that crop and looked, and basically if you'd matched the two pictures together, I think it would have been a really strong form to come across at. But this one is the one that is about place. It still would have been about place if we'd done that, although probably less so. So he'll probably come back to me and say it needed to be about place, and I told him to make it about place, and so he made it that crop that way. But anyway. This one is most definitely about people, although there are no people to see. And I thought that was fantastic. That's really cool. The shadows and the grouping, and the amount of foreground, it makes it about the people within the foreground. The shadows of the people and the rest of the marina becomes the backdrop to the whole kind of thing. And then the whole thing changes shape completely with this reflections image, which I'm not even sure what it's a reflection of, but it's sort of going back to the abstract that it started with. So it starts with an extreme abstract, gets a bit more literal, takes a slightly abstract version of people, and then finishes with this square crop, which is a bit different, but it's got the black line all around holds this thing in, and we get a reflection of something. No idea what it is, and it doesn't matter because it just abstracts the picture again and ties the whole thing together. So once again, Dennis has followed the brief. Dennis has achieved 4 diverse images within the same place. So chocolate for the man down the back, please. The next one is another one about place. This is Brian's trip to the Hooker Valley. And so the Hooker Valley is what provides the consistency as this goes goes through. It starts out with a picture of Kelly, who's been or about to go. I was a bit suspicious because I can't see a camera there. There's a pair of binoculars or something. I'm presuming she's got it on a backpack on there, but I hope there was a camera as she went up the hill. So this is about people. And then we get to the hut up the top, again about the Hooker Valley. Love the leading lines of the table that draws us out of the hut. We get a little, just a sense of the fact that it is a hut because there's a sort of a cooking thing to the right, and it's just got that sort of hut kind of feel about it. And to have just a little mountain like that sitting out the back windows is a pretty cool view. Then we go further up the valley, strongly about shape and form, with the monstrous mountain dominating everything, and the glacial river feed along the lines. And then we finish off with something just stunning about light and just a gorgeous picture of the top of the mountain here. So again, that's flowed. If this image had been early on in the piece, it would have been hard to go past. So he's built up to the crescendo with this thing. I'll go right back to the start. We start with a really good picture of, it's about person, it's about Kelly, but it's in the context of where she is. It's strongly about where she is. This is about light and form and stuff, but it is about place. It's about about the hut. Strongly about place again, but a line of feel and shape that goes through, and we finish off with a really dramatic image that's about sort of colour and form. So, well done, Brian. Chocolate for that man, please. Bonnie Steedskamp started off with an ice cone. And then she took us to One Day Bay in Kakanui, and I was parked up there about 2 weeks ago. So when this picture popped up, I went, I know where that is. So it's a cool little parking spot in One Day Bay. And then we've got a portrait of, instead of people, a little seal. And finishes off with light and sunset at Lake Tekapo. So let's go back through that as we do. First of all, this is a good one to talk about aspect ratio. You'll see that they are similar aspect ratios, so they kind of flow nicely from one to the other. We start with this strongly form-driven picture of the ice cone. It's really high contrast and can't really sit when it comes to a flow set of projected images. It's not going to sit easily in the middle of anything. So you're going to have to, it's the same as that sort of extreme crop, having something strong at the start, or it's kind of like Brian's mountain at the other end at the end of things. But this has come right at the start. We go from there to the thing that's strongly about place, from One Day Beach, the portrait. And if you look at the crop, see, each of them is flowing easily into each other. Basically, the thing's staying the same height, so it's just getting slightly narrower and wider as we go through. Again, same thing, we're progressively going more towards the square crop as we come through that, and then we jump back out again to the sunset at Lake Tekapo. So 4 completely different images, lots of diverse approach to things, and each of them could classify within an honours perspective as being a different view, a different technique, a different type of thing. So Bonnie certainly deserves a chocolate wherever she's hiding. This is the last of the diversity sets, and it's Alan Moore's one. Starts off with Forsyth feather, so Lake Forsyth I'm assuming, and a swan feather, maybe, goose, whatever. A feather on the lake. Little owl. Ujikiki rocks. And wild surf. So the whole thing starts tranquil and soft and floaty and ethereal, and finishes up and raging probably somewhat over the top wild surf. So there's a progression of energy as we build through here. I like the way there's a reference to birds here without a bird being anywhere to be seen, and a really simple picture that's made. It's relatively close up. It's a small thing, put it that way, with a nice relationship to its background. The fact that there are lines of different colours across that water and the reflections or waves or whatever it's causing that actually creates some interest in the background for actually something that's actually relatively simple. And if it was just a plain straight background on a still water, it would hold less interest. So there's an element of interest there that works there. But look at the tonality that flows to the next picture. So that background in the first one is pretty much the same colours in the background in the second one, as we went for an abstract bit of a bird to a literal little bird staring at us in the little owl. And then we keep those colours, but add a bit of drama as we go across to the rocks. It's a different perspective again. They're all taken with us 200 to 600 probably, something with a little bit of reach anyway, and some compression, but they're taken and they achieve kind of different things. So that reaches out into the distance and we get all the foreground that comes across and holds it together. But we do have the same. So we went from the green to the greeny orange, and now we've got orange skies in the background, and we jump across to the really harsh, strong backgrounds and really full of energy, exciting surf in the front. So in terms of the sets, yep. Where do we go? That's about place. That's a portrait. That's a shape, and the other one is just full of energy. So absolutely followed the brief. In terms of PSNZ Honours stuff, each of those images represented a different sort of photographic technique, a different way of addressing the image, even though they were possibly all taken with a telephoto. They all have a different feel about them, which is what we're looking for. To go on to that, to build an image, a set of 10, yes, you're going to need some more different things, perhaps some wide angles, perhaps some close-ups, perhaps a bunch of other things, but bringing that diversity in. But if you can keep that flow of colour and energy going through the whole thing, I'm sure that'll work. So well done, Alan, and some chocolate for that man, please. So that concludes the diversity stuff. I hope that what you got out of that was just looking at the way different people did approach the whole thing, really. That's kind of the main key to what we're looking for here. And, start thinking about where we go from there. The next lot is the make it happen. So this was anything goes, but make something. So this was the opportunity to let's see your calendars that you've done or your books that you've done, and we got one of each of those things, so come and have a bit of a look later. But I would actually challenge you, when it comes to using this set building skill, to put it into a real application and make yourself a calendar, make yourself some books when you go on holiday. Use that opportunity to build those things together, and I think you'll find it's a really good way to present your photography. And if you start doing it over a period of time, I've got 15 years I've been doing calendars each year that I just give out to friends and family at the end of the year, and they're quite cool to look back on and go, well, I was rubbish at it to start off with, and sometimes people say I'm rubbish at it now, but it doesn't really matter. It's a progression, things have changed, we'd see some different things. So we're going to start with Alan's calendar. So the picture I had was not, he had the real McCoy. So here's the real McCoy, it's an A3 calendar. We've got in the light, you can actually see it better. He has, and we'll need to get Alan to talk about this, downloaded a template that is used to put it together. Just presumably you put it together in Photoshop, have you, Alan? Yep. He's also included some quotes there, which are quite cool. Each page has a quote, and I don't know where they come from, but I'm sure we've scoured the internet for quotes on magnolias, and they were all over the place. So when I see a magnolia, I'm reminded of the beauty and potential that exists in all of us, is what Alan tells us, and we get a different one each month. So come and have a look through Alan's calendar and ask him about how he did it, and say to yourself, I think I might do that this year, and actually write it down somewhere so you've promised yourself that you'll do it, because I actually insist that building a calendar each year or committing to do it, even if you just make yourself a commitment, is a really cool way to start putting some things together. So calendar, good start. Well done, Alan. Give him some more chocolate. The next one I'm going to go down and just pick up. Oops, I'll flick it through. Is Anne Yuan's book. And basically Anne told me all about this. She was part of the organisation and she was involved in a Chinese photography competition of photographers up and down the country who all entered images within the book. And Anne's made a book which kind of summarises, I'm not sure whether they've used it as a summary of the images and of the winners. So it's Revel in the Beauty of New Zealand 2023 photography competition. So it starts off with the gold medal winning image. So it's a kind of a catalogue thing, goes to a silver. Oh, there's a picture by Anne Yuan, got silver. And then the bronze, etc., etc. So it steps through its other photographers' work, and it's like a catalogue of the competition. So it's something really worth doing, and it's something we've actually been doing over the last couple of days with the Laurie Thomas images, and I think we've got a pretty good one this year, haven't we, Dennis? And yeah, so come and have a look at this, and just have a look the way that Anne's built this book so that it makes sense with the competition, tells a story about the competition, and then really she's made the images big enough within the page here that it's strongly about them. So yeah, come and have a look at it. I think well done to Anne for putting this forward, and I'm hoping that there are lots of people within the competition buy these off her, and she keeps a couple of pictures of them back. But the bottom line is that she's made a really good little booklet here. She said it was made in New Zealand. I don't exactly know where, but it would be worth finding out, because that's a might say on the back. No, it doesn't. It just says Wanaka Tree on the back, so it might say it on here. No, don't know. Ask Anne. I'm sure she'll tell you if you want to make a book. And the next thing is another example of doing something really productive with your holiday stuff. And Heidi's just come back from gallivanting and shimmying up mountains, and she's made this really awesome set of, I don't know, I call them canvases, but they're not, are they?
No, they're true canvas.
Well, you tell us about them. So. Where's the microphone?
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
I was playing with the pictures as soon as I got back, and I was trying this technique on Photoshop, and you can make oil paintings out of them, and I really enjoyed doing that, and I was getting some good results, and I thought, oh, I've got your competition, and we've got 2 days to get them in. So I went down to the photo warehouse, and I wouldn't normally use them, but I went in there, and they had this non-canvas, but these the print that are cheaper than canvas, so they're slightly cheaper. So I made 4, and they're boxed, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I didn't realise that they were boxed. So yeah, so I got them from the photo warehouse next to the warehouse. I got them done there. Yeah. I
think a really good opportunity to say next time you go on holiday, make sure some pictures about your holiday end up on your wall, or end up somewhere where people see them. Either make a book or do something so that when people come around, it's sitting on the table or it's sitting on the wall and people can have a look at them. This is I've never seen this before. They're a really interesting alternative to stretched canvas. It's lighter, it feels different, it's less textured, although this has got textures all over it. So come and have a look at these. They're really good. I enjoyed looking at them, and I'm sure they're a really cool way to reflect on your holiday. And well done, Heidi. Chocolate for that lady, please.
Oh, so we ate Snickers when we were away. Going Snickers? No.
It's whatever comes in the Rose's box. Now the last one is something really cool. This is Stuart's Orotone dice, and Stuart gave me a little guff sheet on all about Orotones, And since Stuart's here, there's not a lot of point in me saying it, so I'm going to hand this over to Stuart and we're going to turn this on. But what happens is this little construction thing here, I'll turn it on and you'll see, makes the whole thing rotate. And if you look at it, my simplistic take on what Orotone is, it's basically a gold leaf background, so he would have got there's, you know, Stuart can tell you the details about it, but there's gold that reflects underneath it, and the gist of the different angles of it, it goes, I'll get it to go all the way around, I think. There we go, keeps going round. It's just gorgeous. I've got no idea where he got it made, but I'm going to ask Stuart to take this and come and tell us a story about Orotone and how this thing came about. Yeah, you can have the notes and read your own notes.
Okay, that's right. Orotone dice. So I've been playing with Orotone process for probably the last 12 months. The Orotone process is actually a carbon transfer printing technique, usually onto papers, but when you print them onto glass, they're called Orotones. So I might just read what I've put, I don't miss anything. So the photographs are of leaves of the Mount Cook buttercup that can be found along the nature walk near Temple Basin at the top of Arthur's Pass. Each photograph was made using my 6x6 medium format camera and printed onto individual glass plates using the carbon transfer process to make what are called Orotone prints. The Orotone process emerged around 1880. The name Orotone originated from the gold coloration that's applied to the back of the process plate. Different practitioners employed various methods to achieve the gold tone, often with their own unique approaches. One notable example is Edward Curtis, who developed a gold tone application in 1916 using a binder made from banana oil to bind the pigment. And if you look for Edward Curtis on the internet, he's best known for his Orotone photographs of the American Indians, Native American Indians. Process involves printing from a negative to create a positive on a glass plate. In this case, either silver gelatin emulsion or in this case carbon transfer. Then following exposure and development, I coated the back of the plate using a gelatin as a binder and the gold pigment to create that gold tone. The pigment's a little bit different from what most people, or from anybody I've seen use. It's an interference pigment. So there's mica in the pigment, and the mica's got a titanium coating. The thickness of that coating will actually determine the color of the reflection. So you can get red and green and other interference colors. This one's yellow or gold. So as the light hits the print, some of it's reflected back, and you get a silvery, a white sort of print, but then part of the light travels through and is reflected off the off the mica in the titanium, and you get the yellow. So depending on where you are and where you get the light, you'll see it sort of, the intensity of the color will magnify, which is partly why it's on a spinning base. The plates themselves I've cut down from other glass sheets, and I had an idea, what am I going to try and do? So I had an idea of making several prints on glass, and then I sort of think, well, if I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I can maybe try and make a dice. So I made the cube, or glued the glass plates together, which was a bit of a mission. It's a bit of a construction inside to hold them all together. Then I had to seal the edges because I didn't quite, the plates are cut square, and in fact they shouldn't be square because they don't fit nice and neat. So the actually edges of the plate are on the edges, which meant I then had to fill in the corners. So I found some silicon sealant in the back of the shed and put some pigment into silicon sealant and sealed the corners up. So I practiced my tiling or my grouting application a little bit. So then one thing led to another, and I thought, well, it's sitting on the table, it's looking pretty good, but it's hiding one of the faces, so how can I actually present it so you can actually see all of the faces? And that's when I came up with the idea of actually holding it up in my hand and then working out how can I do that. So the posts are dowels, and the base is actually a mirror from the warehouse, a shaving mirror. Because my original thought was to use a glass mirror underneath it to help try and reflect the light, but that didn't really work too well. But the base of the mirror worked really well. So I was able to use a bit of trigonometry to work out where to put the 6 pegs and drill the holes through, paint the posts with a black lacquer. Yeah. So, yeah. That's the orator.
Yeah, I guess the rest. I think that's a fantastic example of the fact that art making is actually problem solving on a maximum extent. There's a whole bunch of, engineering skills that have gone into that to match up the creativity that starts the whole thing. So I think that's a fantastic way to finish this Set Challenge. It's just a really cool thing, and I'm really pleased to have a look at it, and I was delighted to have it in my place for a few days to explore it properly and see when you have different light shining on different things, little other bits jump out at it. So like I say, I think that's a fantastic way to finish this Set Challenge. I want to thank everybody that got involved in it, and I'm delighted that we have the numbers that came forward to take part in the diversity part of it. We'll find a different twist on it for next year, and I hope those of you who go ahead and put these together a bit more and make an honours set find something useful in there, because as far as I'm concerned, there's a good number of those sets are a heck of a long way towards an L set if you haven't got an L already. So just keep going. You just need another one of those tagged on the end of it and a couple more and you're there. So you've got another month or so. Let's make a good bunch of entries from CPS for PSNZ Honours this year. Thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you, Ian. And I think another round of applause to Ian. He's done all the work. He's had all those things home every week. Amazing, awesome. Thank you so much. Just for closing, to say thank you to Alan and Ian for doing the projected image. I think we've got Gordon at the back. Thanks, Gordon, for sound. And who was on duty at the beginning? Thank you. I don't know who was on duty at the beginning. Everyone. Oh, thank you. So remember, tonight you've got just till midnight to put in an entry if you haven't done so already. If you've got any questions, queries, come up and see these prints and have a look at Stuart's revolving, what was it called again? Pardon? Sorry. Orotone dice, thank you. Gosh, short-term memory. Yeah, come up and have a look at these things. Thank you, and have safe travel home, guys. Bye-bye.